Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Southern Outdoorsman Podcast. As promised, today we got Mike Dillon back on, my stepdad, and I'm happy to report you killed a buck.
Yes, I did. I finally made it happen, and the pressure was on. Coming down, I was starting to stress a little bit about it. I was starting to feel it.
Mike, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't getting a little stressed myself. Getting on into January, the rut's kind of coming. It's kind of starting to go. I'm like, all right, we got to go. We got to get it. Because that day I was going to bird hunt with my dog Boone, and me and you had talked, and I was like, do you want to bring Weller out and go see if we can find some woodcock or something? And you were like, yeah, I think I'm going to do that. And then I thought about it some more. I'm like, hey, I think you should really go hunt the club this afternoon, you know? So, Jacob, do you remember? By the way, Jacob's here too. Hey, Jacob.
Hey, everybody. I'm here.
Do you remember what episode number that was that we had Mike on originally?
Man, you should have asked me before we got started. I could look that up.
Yeah.
I'll look it
Well,
up.
that episode that's kind of put more pressure on me because we had that episode. It's like we want to have you on before and after you kill something, and then it's like,
oh yeah, when we told you, we're like, hey, let's do that episode. You're like, I don't know, man.
I was like, have I earned it? I hadn't killed anything yet. But
well, hey, the people following the progression, they want to hear the story. It ain't all about the tactics, about the story too. So yeah, that episode will give a lot of backdrop to kind of what. Oh, it was an outro, wasn't it, Jim?
Yeah, it doesn't have Mike in the outro. I'm looking.
it has this area though. Mm-hmm. If you look on YouTube,
if you go to the YouTube
I'll
channel.
I'll go to YouTube.
Yeah, it'll be on the YouTube channel. But so to give a little bit of backstory, if people haven't heard that one yet, Mike, you started hunting last year. You started kind of hunting hard last year, missed a doe, and then started hunting this year. Like really went into the season running, like you were shooting your bow all off season. You got a climber, like the whole 9 yards. Scouted hard all summer. We ran cameras. And then you missed a couple deer earlier this season. Happens to all of us. And so I think the last time you were on, I think we were kind of struggling to see deer, right? Because we went through a dry spell for a minute there.
Yeah, I think we were struggling there, but we went through my backstory of where I was, and it was seeing those bucks during bow season, and then. I saw a buck briefly, during gun season, and that was it. And then, I had I didn't have another opportunity, but I was up in a tree along that creek, and early in the morning it was real foggy, and I heard something. I could see a buck crossing the creek, but it was so brief, and then that was it, really.
Yeah. What was that episode number?
537. Episode 537.
537. Go back and listen to it. So yeah, that buck sighting happened since then. So that must have been sometime in December that we did that, and we were kind of leading into the rut. So the rut had finally came. We were hunting it, and like you just briefly mentioned, that buck coming through. But what was your experience like, kind of going into your first rut, like the first actual rut that you're kind of hunting all the way through and that you're prepared for?
Well, I was at our hunting camp, which doesn't have, it's hard to see a deer there, and so I feel like I didn't get to really experience the rut like you can, where you're sitting out there and you see some rutting activity that's exciting. I saw that one buck crossing the creek, right after, during gray light, and it was real foggy, and that was really it until I killed my buck.
Yeah, that's kind of the we were talking about this the other day, like the feast or famine thing about hunting the rut this late in the year is man, they're so concentrated in little areas that you're either seeing them or you're not. And I mean, that's what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say, I wonder if that's part of the factor, like what Mike's saying, that he still hasn't seen chasing activity or anything like that. And it makes me wonder, where you hear guys talk a lot about man, I didn't see a really good running activity this year. It's typically the guys, at least I'm talking Alabama specifically, is the guys that are hunting those areas with those January ruts. I just didn't see great running activity. Some people do, but some people are I just didn't. I'm out there, maybe killed a buck, caught a buck cruising, but never saw any chasing. And it makes me wonder, kind of back to that whole feast or famine,
Phantom.
fan.
Bunch of ghosts.
God. Anyways,
Famine?
Famine.
Famine.
There you go.
Beautiful.
You got it.
Beautiful.
Can you spell that?
Later. Anyway, so I think that's part of the factor is, with the lack of cover, if you aren't in an area, first of all, where you can see for a long ways through some really good cover. I mean, that is like perfect example, like a 3-4-year-old clear cut where it's, way over your head. It's 6, 7, 8 foot tall stuff. But if you can climb up a tree and get 30, 35 foot up a tree, maybe higher, you can see down in pockets of it. To me, that's an area I feel like during a January rut, I'd feel more confident actually catching bucks chasing, or a power line, or like a long stretch of road, something like that, where you kind of see that activity. But if you're just hunting like a little food plot, or like, just a little pocket in the woods, there's a high likelihood there might be chasing going on, 200 yards from you. You just can't see it, you can't hear it, you can't, visually get an observation on it. And I feel like that's one of the reasons why a lot of these guys in January talk about like just not seeing a lot of great rutting activities, because again, they're hunting them maybe where the deer used to be, but because of how the cover's like, they're a little bit tighter into that cover, and you don't see them a whole bunch.
Yeah. And you had went out and done some scouting too. Like you found that scrape down in the creek bottom that you ended up putting a camera on. It got a couple deer on it, but like, what was your thought process going into that? Where you were kind of hunting around, and you got skunked several times in a row, right?
Yeah, and it was interesting watching the transition from when we were hunting in bow season to all of a sudden scrapes started appearing, and being able to notice them, and I put that one camera on. It was a scrape, but it was also kind of like a little pinch point where I noticed from tracking myself on Onyx that I kept going this exact same path right here over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the path the deer are going to take too. And that camera, I had a whole bunch of bucks on it, and a whole bunch of activity on it, mostly at night. But, I thought that area down there was going to be really good, but also the other area we were hunting,
Mm-hmm.
I knew it was good because I'd seen, I had some buck, in my sight up there,
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually a good point on the tracker, because I kind of harp on that, especially on like a hunting club, where every time you go out there, put your tracker on, and that's actually something I have not brought up before. But first of all, it'll show you like the areas that you're overlooking, because all your tracks will be a big gap in them. You're like, okay, well, I've never gone in there. But I didn't think about that. The whole pinch point thing. That's really interesting. All your tracks kind of pinch down in this one spot.
They're all spread out from where I was like filtering through there, and then they all come and do this S turn right through this one area. Oh. And it's because you got a little oxbow in the creek there, and it's real thick, and you're not going to go that way. And then you got the bedding area, and it's real thick, and you just kind of force through that area.
Yeah, and this is flat too. This is like a flat creek bottom, so it's not like you're going through a saddle or something like that. It's totally flat.
Right.
And so the only thing creating that pinch is that thick cover in the water.
Yeah, and then I came through there, and there's a scrape right there, and I'd been through there a bunch of times with no scrape, and my camera's still out there, so
yeah,
getting some good information out there.
Yeah, when you first put that camera up, you share that feed with me. It's a Tacticam, and you can like share the feed with other people, and there wasn't much showing up on it at first at all for a while, and then like I don't know, like probably 3 weeks after you put it out, all of a sudden, bam! I mean, it started lighting up
every night.
Yep. Yeah, and probably 5 or 6 different bucks. You had 2 bucks fighting on that camera.
Yeah.
What? I didn't know this.
Oh yeah.
Like decent deer, little deer. What we talking here?
Well, I mean, it was like a little 6-point and
it
may have been an 8-point, or it was 2 6-points. I can't remember what it was.
The 8-point looked a lot like your deer. Matter of fact.
Yeah, and then there's a big 8-point that you would get a video, and it looked like there was. I mean, you get an image that you look like there was nothing on there, and download the video, and you'd see something in the background.
That big 8-point. Yeah. Did that. Oh,
there's a big one.
Yeah, I saw him. Like I was scrolling through that feed, and he was coming through dangerously close to legal light. It was like 5 something in the morning, right before legal light, and you see a deer in the background, and I could see the antler coming out from behind a tree. I'm like, oh, that's a really good deer. And then you requested the video and sent it to me, and yeah, it's that 8-point. Of course, he just nails the camera from like 30 yards, and he's like looking at it, because he's probably seen a lot of cameras in his day.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a good deer.
Yeah, I'm telling you, those tactic cams glow red, baby, and those deer can see that.
Oh yeah, they can see them.
On video mode, it's just like they're like, what? Okay.
The younger
do
deer
that little head
don't
bob.
mind it as much. But I had a 6-point come up, stick his nose on the camera basically. But
Yeah, I showed that video to Tiffany. She was laughing real hard at it because I mean he gets like right up in that camera and his eyes are glowing. He's like, "What is that?"
You spray some come here deer on it.
Oh man, I forgot all about come here deer. That's like a. Do you know what that is?
no, I have no idea. What that is.
Mike's dude, he doesn't know all the stuff. He don't know nothing about rubline slime, come here deer, freaking deer cocaine.
No, I have heard of deer cocaine.
No, it's deer cane.
I know, but everyone calls it deer cocaine. I used to work in a bow shop, and the people would come in, they'd be like, "Man, y'all got any of that deer cocaine?" Because it comes in a big bag, and it's just white powder.
Yeah, you get the deer booger sugar.
And deer like, "Hey, is Betty White going to be there?"
Yeah, no,
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, no, commuter that screens mid 2000s, outdoor television. But no, that's cool though. Y'all had like that kind of encounter like in that one spot. Is that where you shot the buck at? Was in and around that area?
No, This was up on top of the ridge in a saddle where they'd done a small little clear cut, and
The spot. Inside
Andrew
the
went
spot.
in there the day before.
Yeah, man. That did we? I don't think.
Nope.
Yeah, okay, we haven't talked about it yet.
You briefly mention it, but you kind of like eased around it. You never gave it much detail about a spot.
So there's a couple. We've talked about it before. There's a couple guys at the camp who are hunting the same general area.
They listen
And
to the podcast.
I don't think they listen.
I don't think they do either now.
If they do, I think they would have said something. I don't know. But anyways, they hunt the same area, and they have gone in and they basically cleared out the brush and put in their own food plot. So they went on a different day than the work day. They got their own tractor. They went in there, cut a lane through these pines, cleared out, planted a beautiful, just pristine food plot down in these pines. Now, I'm not going to hunt it, but you know, I don't pin out exactly where I'm hunting when I go hunt. And so on opening day, which they have all the same deer on camera as us, on opening day, I pinned out like right on top of that food plot.
Gar hole, man.
I'm talking about right on top of that. Because I didn't want one. I was going to be hunting in close enough proximity to it that if they had gone to that food plot, I would mess them up or they would mess me up. It would not be good. So I pinned out just right in that general area, which, you know, is what it is. That's what I'm doing. And I go in there and I shoot the big 6-point that day. And man, that joker, he was there that day. He was going to go hunt that spot. And he saw that I had pinned out there. He knew I killed a buck. And he was a little bit upset because he thought that I was in his ladder stand. And he'd been telling everybody at the club about it. He told you, he told Sam, he told this person, that person.
he was ready to fight you.
Dude, he was telling it. He was like, "Well, I worked hard for that deer, you know," and I've been trying to run into him because I want to clear the air, you know, and I don't want to be mad or whatever. I don't want drama, and I finally ran into him that day, and I saw his Jeep coming down the road, and I was like, "Finally!" And he rolled down the window. And I'm like, "Hey man, what's up?" He's like, "You're the one that killed that 6-point, aren't you?" And I'm like, I knew it was coming, and I was like, "Yeah, I killed that 6-point." He's like, "I worked hard for that deer, you know," and he starts going on about the food plot, and I was like, "Food plot?" And he's like, "Yeah, that food plot down in the ponds." I'm like, "I didn't shoot him on that food plot." And he was like, "Oh, you didn't?" And then he was so happy I didn't shoot. He was so happy I didn't shoot
No,
him.
you should have been like, man, that ladder stand's sweet, dude. Dude, I was stretched out, comfortable, man. He came out, 5 o'clock on the dot, man, just perfect.
Oh, dude, man, yeah. I was like, yeah, no, I didn't shoot him on that food plot. And then, so like we talked about it on the show, about like where I, what did I say exactly where I shot it? Okay. Well, he named exactly where I shot. He was like, "You were hunting blah, 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 right?" And I was like, no, man, I was down in those pines, you know. So I fudged the line a little bit there, but, you know, you got to do what you got to do.
Little white liar.
Look, look, it was a 50-yard lie. All right, I was 50 yards off. So I was like, man, I was just hunting a trail cross, and you know where they're coming out, which was not a lie, not a lie. Anyways, so yeah, I told him that, and then we're hunky dory after that. And then the next morning, there was like a rain front coming in, and I go show up out there, and I whip into the gate, and the gate's wide open, and what do I see driving up the road is his Jeep, you know, before daylight in the rain. I'm like, man, crap, like he beat me here, because I knew where he was going. Like he was going right where I wanted to go. And I follow him in there and talk to him at the pinout board and everything, and he goes to a spot that is a pretty good spot in my opinion. I've actually got a camera like 15 yards from his tree that he probably hasn't seen or anything. And so he pins out there, and I pin out in this different area, and you know he's standing there. He's like, well, where are you gonna go? And I'm like, crap, because I don't want to like pin out, like, I don't know, it was weird. I was like, I don't really want to pin out like right here. And I was like, oh, I'm probably gonna go like on this ridge top, and it's where you ended up shooting the buck. And I pin out, and I'm like, you know, I hunt with a stand on my back, and I'm just gonna go in there, and I'm gonna see if I can find a tree. And I told him, I'm like, you know, I'm just gonna walk in after daylight. I got one tree I might get in, and you know, it's real viney. I'll have to cut my way up the tree. It'll take forever. So Jacob got me sick. And
you lying dog, man.
So I was like, yeah, I'll probably go in there. He's like, oh, okay. So he goes to his spot. I go to my spot. And when I get to my spot, he just so happened to park his Jeep right down the hill from like where I was going to be hunting. And you're not far off the road. And from when I get up to the top of my tree, I can just see his Jeep like way down through the woods. Just see like a little bits and pieces of it. I was like, oh, geez. And I was going to sit all day in that spot. And it looked pretty good. You know, I'd found it a couple weeks earlier. And basically, I sit there all morning, and it gets to be like 11 o'clock, or 10:30 or so.
And you hear that buck walking.
No, I hear the unlocking of a Jeep. And I look down, and I can just, again, barely see it through the woods. But I see his orange hat, and I'm like, okay, he's back down there. And I was like, okay, he's about to head out. And he gets in his car, and he doesn't pull away. Like he's down there forever. I'm like, he must be like eating lunch or something at his truck. And then at probably about 11, I hear something else, and I see his hat again, and then he disappears. And I'm like, okay, he must be going to get back in the tree. And I'm sitting there for like, I don't know, 15 minutes or so, and I just hear a twig break behind me, and I'm like, oh, here it is. And I like turn and look, and he is standing 30 yards behind me. And I was like, oh crap. And so I'm one sticking.
Now, how far off are you hunting compared to where you pinned out at?
About 100 yards.
Man, so he's trying to push the limit in there.
Yeah, so that's the thing.
He's trying to find out where Andrew's hunting, I think.
That little nosy son of a gun.
So yeah, I was about 100 yards off. And I told him, I was like, I'll probably end up getting on that ridge top. Because there's a creek bottom right there, and I pinned out, you know, kind of on the, like, between the creek and the top of the hill, which, another thing I learned, another guy had pulled up at the checkout, or the pinout board that day, and they were trying to, like, explain stuff on the map, and I quickly realized that neither of them knew where the hell anything was. Like, they weren't, like, the guy's like, hey, is this Frog Field right here? You know where Frog Field's at. And the other gentleman there pointed to not even our property. He's like, this is Frog Field right here. And I'm like, and I was walking out the door when I saw him do that. I was like, no. Like, that's not it.
The other guy was trying to gar hole him. He didn't want to go to Frog Field.
Maybe, dude. I was sitting there looking, and then he corrected it and everything. He's like, oh, wait, no, this is it right here. And so I was like, yeah, I'm just going to work around this area and get on that ridge top. So he knew roughly where I was. But from where I actually pinned out, it was about 100 yards. So I was about 100 yards further up the hill from where I pinned out. But, again, I talked to him in the pinout shed, and I told him I was going to be walking around, and I'm not going to sit right. I was like, hey, I don't hunt where I pin out, just so you know. Like, it's a general area for me. He's like, okay. And so, yeah, I turn around, and I see he's 30 yards behind me. And I'm not going to lie, my first thought is like, oh no, he came up here to like take a dump or something. And I'm like,
You just flip that camera around on the phone. You're like, oh baby, world star, we about to make some money.
that's so wrong. So
And you don't say nothing until he's almost done. You hit him. You hit him.
hey, what are you doing?
Yeah, you hit him halfway pushing.
Yeah, wait. Yeah, wait till he's pinching.
Oh my god.
Sorry.
That's when you hit him like game more.
Let me see your hands. Oh gosh, this is
He
terrible.
lets go of that tree, falls back. That's my technique.
Oh, you find a good tree.
Oh,
And
yeah,
grab onto
dude.
support.
It's the best
Better
technique.
make sure that sucker's alive.
Well, you know, you give it a good test before you get down and dirty. So, yeah.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, that was my first thought. I'm like, oh, this is about to get weird. And so I turn around, and so I'm one sticking, and I'm like way up this tree. And I told it, he's like, what kind of that morning? He's like, what kind of stand do you use? I'm like, well, I hunt with a saddle, and I do this thing called a one stick, and I kind of explained it, and he like probably did not know what I was talking about. I probably didn't explain it that good, and so he's back there, and I'm like, maybe he'll just move on. So I kind of turn and like don't look in that direction, and I'm like, we'll see what happens.
Oh,
here.
you're so different from me.
Because again, one sticking, there's nothing at the base of the tree, like at all. There's no stick, there's
No
no pull-up
evidence.
rope, there's no evidence that I'm even in this tree at all. So unless he looks up
High.
like way up,
breaks his neck
canopy.
looking up.
Unless he looks into that canopy, he's not going to see me. And I had my hat stuffed in my bag because in Alabama you don't have to wear your orange in the tree. So I had
As
my-
long as you're 12 feet or higher. You know,
I was a little bit higher than 12. And so, and then I'm like looking, and a couple minutes go by, and I hear another twig break, and I turn around, and he's about to walk right under me. And I thought about like just letting him walk by, but I was like, it looked like he was that lane. There's like a lane cut. There's a saddle on top of that ridge, and they've cut a lane like right smack through the middle of it. It's perfect. And it looked like he was about to walk right down that lane. So I'm like, he's about to walk this anyways. And it's kind of isolated bedding cover. And so you're hunting isolated bedding. And so if he goes and walks through it, he basically like completely ruins the spot for the rest of the day. You know, you might catch one cruising through, you know, that came from somewhere else. But I thought for the spot to be good, you needed to get in there early and hunt it all day because you're hunting deer that are kind of ping-ponging around in that bedding area. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to whistle at him. So I whistle at him. And he's like, starts looking around like that. And I whistle again. And he's like, he keeps looking.
guys, go to YouTube.
And I whistle again. And he's like looking, and he does this. He like throws his hands up. He's like, I don't know. You can tell he's like, dang, where is this guy at? Because you could tell he's probably like embarrassed that he walked up on me. And dude, at this point, I got my hat out, my orange hat, and I'm waving it like this. And we whistle at each other for an awkward amount of time. And he cannot find me. I'm raking the hat on the tree, like making sound.
Buck comes running up, and and then old boy shoots your buck. Yeah.
Dude, broken heart. So finally, he looks up like this, like, cause I'm way up there, and he's like, you know, does his hands, and then I see him get his phone out. I'm like, he's about to text me. So he texts me, and he sent me a text. He's like, sorry, man, I didn't know I was this close to you, or I didn't know you were this close or something. And so I just call him, and he's, you know, 15 feet from me at this point, and I
You're
call him on
only
the phone.
15 feet up the tree?
No. He's like 15 feet from the base of the tree.
How high do you think you are? You got a 40-foot rope.
I'm probably like,
How much rope was sitting in the ground when you came down?
the rope was this high off the ground.
So 40-foot rope. How big around was the tree we talking?
Maybe
Yeah.
14 inches. I was probably like right there around 40 up, like 38
Yeah.
or something. So, I mean,
That's high.
Yeah,
That
that's
is high. Like most climber guys will say they're, and I was this guy until I started like actually climbing this high. Most people will be like, I was 30 feet up, and they were probably like 18.
Yeah.
You know, because like it just seems like it's so much higher. But man, yeah, when you start climbing up, like the pucker factor is going a little bit because like that tree starts swaying, especially when you're in a saddle and you have like the one bridge and tether. I don't really think about it in normal situations, but when you're that high, I'm like, dude, if this thing fails, I will die.
If it fails,
Yeah. Fails?
yeah, that's what you said. If this thing fails.
Fails, yeah.
Oh, I thought you mean the tree falls. Okay.
Well, if the tree fell, I'm
It's
dead.
equipment fails.
Yeah, if the equipment fails.
Oh.
But
Like
even
the
at,
little rope man and
even at
everything.
30 foot, you're gonna.
Yeah, but
So when
but
I-
for sure at 38,
Yeah.
But anyways, what were
Yeah.
you saying?
Well, I was saying the highest I've ever gotten is 30 feet, and before that it was like 20, but up at 30 feet, it feels different.
See, to me, you ain't high unless you gotta adjust that platform a couple times.
but the 30
climber.
foot height is where I killed my buck. So
Ooh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
and he never did see me. So I
Foreshadowing.
feel a lot confident
Yeah,
in that height.
that when I was looking down that lane.
Well, hold on, you gotta keep going. The story.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Tell you,
So I call him on the phone so I can whisper to him, and I'm like, hey, he's like profusely apologizing, which I appreciated, and I was like, dude, you're good. Like, don't worry about it at all. You're not messing me up. He was extremely quiet, and I told him, I was like, hey, dude, like your sneaking skills are on point, because he got all the way up there, and I didn't hear him until he was like right on top of me, and he's like, well, I was just walking a little bit of this up here. Like, I'm not messing you up, am I? And I'm like, no. And I asked him, I'm like, you see anything this morning? He said, no, I hadn't seen anything either. I was like, I haven't seen anything. And eventually, like, we're about to hang up the phone, and he's like looking up there. He's like, how did you get up there? Because there's no sticks or anything on the tree. And I was like,
I'm like, you should be like, I bear hugged it and started climbing. Man, I would have messed with this guy. Like, dude, but listen, I got
man,
some.
these boots got some grip on.
I got some crazy upper body strength, boy. I shimmied up
You see
here.
these forearms?
spider monkey.
They call me the spider monkey.
That's what you should
Yeah,
open
Chip,
up.
I'll
With.
come at you like a spider monkey.
Man, that's your nickname in that club now.
Old spider monkey. So he's like, I was like, no, I'm probably about to get down, man. And he's like, well, you mind if I stand here and watch how you get down? I was like, no, you're good. Because I told him, he's like, how do you get down? I'm like, I rappel. He's like, I'd like to see that. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll get down right now. Because like at this point, I'm like, I'm getting out of here. And so yeah, I rappelled down, talked to him for a minute.
What was his reaction after rappelling?
He was asking me like, where can he get that set up? He's like, how much did all that cost? Like where'd you get it from and whatnot? And he was asking me like, how did I start doing that? And I explained to him like the public land we hunt, hunting clear cuts, being able to get super high, being able to get in any tree, and it weighs nothing. Like I had that one stick there, and I'm like, this is my climber. Like, feel how light this is. And he felt it, and because he was talking about how he doesn't like lugging his climber around because it's so big and heavy and bulky. And so I was like letting him check it out, and he ends up moving off, and I'm like, well, I'm just gonna work down this ridge and work back to my truck and go to a different spot. He's like, all right, well, you let me know what you see up here, and don't tell me no lies either. I was like, will do. So I go walking down, and I get 10 yards from the base of the tree I hunted, and lo and behold, there's a cell camera. It's Cody's. And I didn't see it till I walked past it, and I'm like glassing something. I'm looking at a rub through my binos, and I look to my right, and there's a cell camera like right there. I'm like, oh crap! And it was a Moultrie.
And at that point, you decided, I'm going to take a dump right here.
Dude, hey, whenever I have to go in the woods, I scan hard. I'm like making sure there's no trail cameras. Anyways, so I'm like, I figured it was Cody's camera. So I keep going down the hill, and at the base of the hill, what do I find? But the scrape I have been looking for on this place. We talked about how we can't find a community scrape out there, and here it is, finally. It's about the size of this ottoman sitting in front of us right here. And it's got several licking branches, and then there's a secondary scrape off to the side of it that's about the size of one of these seat cushions. And by far, in some places that we hunt, that wouldn't be really that big of a scrape. In other places, it'd be giant. In this place, it's giant. We haven't found anything even close to that size. So I was like, okay, this is it. This is the spot. And it confirmed it was a good area. And then there's 2 or 3 trees like right there on top of it that are just perfect telephone poles. And I was like, those are the trees to get in. You can hunt it on a different wind or whatever. And I guess that was the day before you killed your buck, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, and then the next day came, and I told you about the area. And I was like, I think this is the spot still, even though we walked it and everything, and other people obviously know about it. There's trail cameras in there. The other guy was walking through it. I was like, I still think this is the area. It's got the cover. It's got the sign. We've had encounters with bucks all year in this area. Like they're still living here. So I thought it was a good area. So what was your thought process kind of going into that day, like with that information after a long string of hunts where you weren't really seeing anything?
Well, first of all, that morning, I got up, slept in a little bit, and got out there because the wind was going to be changing directions and doing all kinds of stuff. And I was, thought that was a good opportunity to go check cameras, and went and checked one of my cameras that we've got up on that ridge, and pulled that camera card, and I got a cell camera that wasn't much activity, and grabbed that, and I looked, and I just briefly looked at the card, and I saw some good bucks on there, and then I called you, and I was all excited about seeing those bucks on that ridge. I was like, well, do you think I should hunt this ridge? Because I mean, there's I was telling you about all the activity, and you said no, I think you ought to go up there and get in that spot. And there was a northwest wind later today. It's going to be around 10 o'clock or so. It was going to change. The wind was going to change direction, be like west, northwest.
Mm-hmm.
And that was going to be the time to get in there. And it was about 9:30 when I was 9 or 9:30 when I was talking to you. And you said, look, there might be a buck like bedded like real close by. So you got to really take your time and just don't worry about how long it takes. Sneak in there as quietly as you can. And, so that's, what I was like, okay, well, I don't care how long it takes. It's 10 a.m. If it takes me a couple hours to get up in the tree, then I'm just going to be as quiet as it can be, And so that's what I did. I went and I parked down the road and worked my way up the road, and I noticed the wind was swirling and stuff like that. Heading in, I was a little bit worried about that, but I got just west of that area where you dropped the pin, and started heading up the hill, and I just got hit in the face with that wind. And I really took my time, because I was like, I'm running out of season.
Yeah.
And I was like, look, I don't care how long it takes me. And so I would take 2 steps at a time, and there's briars and stuff I'm trying to get through, and I would just stop. I had the climber on my back. I was wanting to get over in that area quick, but took my time getting up in there, and had to crawl through some briars to get to the tree, because I got to your pin and there wasn't a single tree there. It was like surrounded by trees, and I looked, I was like, I bet you that's it, because it's looking down through that little cut.
Yeah.
And I got up in there and got quietly up the tree, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to go an extra 10 feet. I'm going to go another. So I went up to like 30 feet, and wind was blowing 7 to 10 miles per hour, which wasn't too bad up there, but that tree was swaying.
Oh, doing a little tree circle.
Yeah.
But real quick before we get into that part, but when you were heading out there, this is, I think, an important detail for everybody.
Okay.
When we were talking about you going out there, you mentioned, I was like, hey, when I said you got to be really quiet, you were like, man, this climber's been squeaking like crazy.
That's right.
Talk about that a little bit.
Okay, so earlier in the season, I had done away with the squeak when I first got my climber. But as the season went on, it got to be where it was squeaking a little bit. And I think that might have played into, me not seeing anything on some of my hunts.
Squeaking while you're walking or while you're sitting?
Every time you sit down on that bar,
Mm-hmm.
it'd squeak. And so
Like a loud squeak?
Yeah, but it sounded like a tree squeaking against another tree.
Yeah.
So I was like, maybe it doesn't have that much of an effect, but I was worried about a whole bunch of other details, and it just kind of like not done anything about that. And you said, no, you need to go down to the gas station and get some WD-40 and put on that before you climb in there. And so
Yep.
that's what I did. I went in there, got some WD-40 and put it on there. It was super quiet.
Not very scent free,
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's the thing. At the beginning of the season, I used graphite, because
interesting.
graphite's a lubricant, and I was, worried about WD-40 having a scent, but that graphite didn't last long enough, and I guess it's
interesting.
better to be, if you're downwind, it's better to be quiet, And
Yeah.
so I was able to climb up that tree as quiet as I have all year long. and only had to like cut one little branch off to get up as high as I wanted to get. And but I was up there, and I got up. I started from my truck at 10 a.m. and I got settled in the tree at noon.
Yes, sir.
Nice. And this is not a far walk.
No, it's not a far walk
That's
at
what
all.
I'm talking about.
And I was like, I got all day. I just want to, and so anyway, sat up there, and I felt really good at being at that height. It's like, that's as high as I've been, and I felt like, I would be. There's a lot less chance I was going to be seen. And up there swaying around, and then I started thinking about, what if this tree breaks? I was like, because it was swaying mostly. I was facing north. There was a northwest wind, so I was swaying that way most of the time. But every once in a while, the tree would kind of lean forward.
And you kind of see the ground. You're like, ooh.
Yeah, I was like, oh well, it's worth it.
Funny prank. Sneak up to your buddies in that situation. You start cracking some water bottles underneath that tree.
Oh man, that would do it.
That would do it. Oh, you're like my life has come and gone.
Dude, one time on you know how on the Meat Eater podcast that intro has like the cracking, like tree breaking sound?
Oh yeah.
One time on there, he said that a listener wrote in who was listening in the tree stand, and the intro is like a tree cracking, and he like almost crapped his pants because he thought the tree was falling. Anyways, yeah, good old tree. Was that your first tree surfing experience?
No, I mean, I've felt it a little bit, but I've been at a little bit lower height.
Oh yeah,
and it was a bigger tree. I mean, this tree was probably about this big around at the height I was at.
Yeah.
And so anyway, sat there for a while, and then we heard a gunshot, and Sam.
Yeah, we got that group message going.
Yeah,
man.
Sam. Every time he hears a gunshot, he's like, "Mike, was that you?"
Yeah, he texted in the group message. I was like, "No way!" And then you texted back, and you were like, "Nope." I was like,
"No, sir." It's like, what? It wasn't me. That was around 3:00, and we texted back and forth a little bit, and then it kind of died down, and the wind had been blowing, and like right around 3:30, the wind kind of died down, and I got this feeling. I was like, I feel like something's about to happen, and I heard a noise, and look, I've got that kind of small clear cut through the saddle right in front of me, and there's briar thickets and stuff down there, and all of a sudden I see some antlers come out, and most of the deer is behind the briars, but I could tell it was a good one, and that's when I was like, oh crap, but I didn't say crap. Because what happened was I was sitting in my climber. I was sitting in my climber for an hour or so.
Where do you put your gun at when you're sitting?
I've got my rail, and I've got it up under my arm and kind of rested up there, and
ready to rock.
But
yeah.
But here's the thing: is like every hour and a half or so, it's like I get uncomfortable, and so I stand up for 15 minutes. Well, I would stood up, and so when that deer came out, I was standing, and I was like, "Oh crap!" I was like, "This is my opportunity. This is it. I got to make this happen." And he was walking out, and I couldn't see him. And I look over to the left, and there's a little opening that he was going to come out in. And so I raised my gun, and I look up.
While standing, or were you sitting back
While
in?
I was standing.
Okay.
So I was standing, and I leaned up against the tree, and I was standing. And, this happened quick. There was no chance for me to sit down. Because on my climber, when I stand up, my seat moves back, and I have to like take the straps and move it and to get sat back down.
How far was the deer when you first saw him?
35 yards.
That close?
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay.
So he's coming out, and I'm sitting there, and I stopped him the way I've heard on y'all's podcast. And he instantly stopped. And I aim, hold my breath, and shot. And I thought that was solid. I thought that for sure. He jumped this way and he jumped back this way and he stood there and I was like, oh, he's about to fall. And racked another one and he ran. He turned and he ran towards me and he came down. I was facing north. He comes down 10 yards from me, down below my tree stand, and this is what I remember now because it was all a blur.
A little fuzzy.
Let me just, preface that with, saying that this is what I remember. He turned towards the north again, and I was like, why, I'm going to shoot him again. And so I aim, it's click. And so later I realized I thought I racked that shell out of there, but I racked that empty shell back in.
You short shucked it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it was enough to make it the trigger for,
Yeah.
And then I was like, how long is this deer going to stand here? He turned and I thought he was quartered towards me, but I can't remember. I didn't even know what kind of, if it was a 6 point or 8 point. But this time I was like, watch that shell eject, and I watched another one go in there and aimed and shot, and that one was the magic bullet.
Yeah. So at that point, so you shot the second time. So I was kind of confused like the first time you explained what happened. So when you shot, he kind of jumped and ran right to you. You racked a shell, you short shucked it, clicked on him, and when you clicked, did he continue standing there, or he moved again?
No, he stood in that same spot. He
Okay.
just turned around he turned around looking. He was looking for the noise.
Oh, I got you.
And when the first time I shot, he didn't just instantly run. He reacted to it like I thought I hit him.
Okay.
And I thought he was just going to drop.
Yeah.
And but before all this, when he first walked out, my heart was up in my throat. I mean, I was like, my heart was thumping. And so I shot him. He ran north, and he went right back to about where I shot him the first time and dropped. And I was just sitting there like, my heart was just racing, and I'm sitting there trying to text, and my fingers just like shaking and stuff. And I was having to like backspace and retype, and I was like, well, boys, I done it, and man, it was like, y'all were like, well, what kind of deer was it? I was like, I have no idea.
But you knew he was down.
I knew it was I knew it was a good one. Mm-hmm. I just didn't know, it's amazing how much you don't remember,
So explain. So this is your first deer ever. Explain what buck fever's like for the first time.
I mean,
That adrenaline rush.
Oh man,
Have you ever experienced anything like that before?
No, I have not. It's like you can't explain it to where someone can understand it. It's like, just my heart was pounding through. I felt like it was up to here, and it's in your ears. It's hard to explain. But
How well did your limbs work, your legs and your arms work after that?
I mean, I was leaning against the tree to stay steady, and my heart rate was. It was 30 minutes after I shot that deer, and my heart rate was still just up there. It was something to remember, and I'm hoping now, going forward, when I kill a deer, it won't be as hard to shoot the son of a gun because buck fever or whatever.
Nah, you're gonna have that happen a lot more.
Really?
Yeah, a lot more.
I was hoping maybe it's like now it's okay. Well, now it's gonna be cool.
Yeah, it's interesting because some people will have just that buck fever adrenaline dump on any deer they shoot. Some guys get to the point it's only like just real big deer and all that kind of stuff, and it's like, I get it. I don't get it as extreme as I have in the past. I'm like, so it takes very specific deer for me to like just get that crazy adrenaline dump. I always have it a little bit, but it's not like convulsing. Like I remember when my youngest brother, he shot a deer. I was hunting with him. He shot a buck back when I was in college, and he was probably I I don't know, 18. He was probably 13 maybe. Yeah, 5 years difference. And he shot a buck, and he was in this climber. We were hunting a clear cup in Arkansas. And he shoots this buck, man, made a really good shot on it. It was a couple 100-yard shot. And I'm telling you, I looked over, I'm filming him, and he is just like, I mean, just a freaking shaking, dude. I'm talking, for all the YouTube viewers out there, you'd have to see his, but I mean, he is just like doing this. Like, I'm talking like crazy adrenaline jump. And, just messed my mic up. Crazy adrenaline dump. And like, but everybody's a little bit different with that.
Yeah.
Like,
So, I mean, it was like, I think that first time I saw that 10-point shot at him with the bow, I mean, that's how it was for me.
oh, I'm sure.
This time it wasn't as bad as that, but I was like having to lean up against the tree, so I felt like I wasn't gonna fall out of the tree stand
Yeah.
while my chest was thumping. And it, like I said, 30 minutes later, I'm sitting there and I realize my chest is, my heart rate is still up 30 minutes later.
So two of my, like in the recent years, two of the bucks I've shot where I like had like just, crazy adrenaline dump was both my deer in Iowa. And the reason why is not necessarily that they were both big deer, a lot bigger deer than I've killed here in Alabama. But it's because you saw them for a little bit before you got to kill them. There's so many situations in Alabama, and like even the deer I've killed in Arkansas, it's like it happens so quick. I don't have time typically to like get adrenaline dump like ahead of time. Afterwards, it's a little bit different, but like those deer in Iowa, when I'm watching them come through a cut cornfield, and like you're watching them for a couple minutes, and you're like trying to wait to get a shot, and like the first time I went to Iowa, I had 11 bucks out in the field. One of them was 150 something inch, probably 8-point. And they're at 300 something yards. I can't shoot that far with my muzzler. And I'm sitting there about to lose it, man. I'm talking like I'm over there. I'm like, dude, I ain't felt like this in forever. This is like you got all these bucks out there and like 3 or 4 shooters, and I'm just about to lose it. And the deer I shot wasn't even those deer. It was a buck that ran those off the field and, shot him. But like in the one I shot last year, January 2023, it's kind of a similar situation, but when he walked out, he was the only deer that came out. But when I saw him, I saw how big his frame was, and I'm like, it's this one buck we've been trying to kill that we named Gimpy on that trip. And it took, like, again, a couple minutes for the shot to kind of come together because he's, like, behind some corn stalks. Like, he's kind of moving a little bit. And I'm like, okay, calm down. And I caught myself because a lot of times when that adrenaline dump happens, both archery hunting, but especially gun hunting, too, it's like, you like a lot of times if you shoot that first opportunity, you'll jerk that trigger real bad because you're so amped up. And I caught myself at one point try to pull that hammer back, and I like almost went to pull the trigger, and I like just jerked a little bit.
Yeah.
And I told myself, calm the hell down, dude. Just
That's what happened to me on that SOA buck last year that I whiffed on. Is that exact? Saw he was coming for a long time, and like that's the first deer I've had that kind of adrenaline dump on before I got an opportunity to shoot it in a long time. And yeah, I made a complete idiot of myself.
We heard your heartbeat.
Yeah, you can hear it on the microphone. I'm wearing a microphone like right here, and you can literally hear my heartbeat on the video. But yeah, that's what happened with him. I didn't catch myself, and I let him walk into the crosshairs, and I shot like that far over his back.
Yeah, just shot over his back. That's one, I guess, advantage of when you are hunting some thicker cover. Maybe you can't see just crazy far. A lot of times when they come by close, it's like it's quick. It's 5-7 seconds, like you get a shot. So you might, you're gonna get amped up. Your breath rate's gonna increase a little bit, but you're not like as jazzed up as in, if you're watching that buck for 5 minutes and then you have to make the shot, because that is way worse. Way worse. Yeah. But again, still, even after the fact, you kind of get all jacked up. But you're experiencing that a lot more. So.
Well, it wasn't pretty the way I killed him, but I did kill him. Well, I didn't hit him one time where I was aiming.
But listen, you say that, but you him 2 times.
Yeah.
And both of them were independently lethal shots.
Yeah, no doubt. Because the thing is, when I went to keep the buck out, I found one of the bullets, and that's what I'm saying. You thought he was quartering toward you for the second shot. I think he was quartering away from you.
He may have been.
Because I pulled the bullet out of his neck just underneath the hide when I went to cape him out. But anyways, you made 2 good shots. It's just one of those things that, I'll be honest, a lot of people understand this, especially if you kill quite a few deer. Deer are tough, man. They are hard to kill. Like, they're not like you hear a lot of guys go hunt antelope or something like that, pronghorn, and those deer you can barely. I've heard guys talk about you barely nick them and they just want to die. Like it's just
Born looking for a place to die.
a whitetail. I mean, dude, everything in their bodies tell them to survive. So I mean, they're tough animals, but I mean, hit them twice. I thought you did two good shots. I mean, they were two good shots, and took them a second to go down, but the second shot put them down pretty quickly. But again, if you think about it, that all happened in probably 10 seconds.
Oh yeah, that first shot happened probably in like 3 seconds.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it seemed like a long period of time.
Yeah.
But you're right, it probably just seconds. And I was like, I thought I missed that first shot. When we looked at the buck, and I was thinking, I need to go check my scope, and I probably will before I go back out. And but man, I don't know, man. If he could have run the other direction, and maybe with that first shot, he still would have found him. So
Yeah.
that makes me feel better about it.
Yeah, no, they were both lethal shots. I mean, and that's a little bit of a challenging thing, especially when you're brand new. And this is something that we probably take for granted because we both killed deer. Well, I killed my first deer. I think I was like 11 or 12.
Yeah, same.
And so like by the time we're like out on our own hunting, like we've killed several deer, and the whole quartering away aspect can be like a little bit challenging of like where should you shoot at that deer, because you're taught you're aiming right behind the shoulder, but like what if he's quartering away at 45-degree angle? Then all of a sudden you're aiming at a spot you would typically never aim at.
Right.
But it's because you're trying to aim for that exit and you're trying to send that bullet like through the
Last,
vitals.
That's
last
exactly.
rib.
What's funny, when I was sitting up in that tree, I kept thinking about that, and it's like, okay, I got to remember, if I don't get that one certain shot, you're aiming for that area in the chest area, where the vitals are, and might have to shoot them somewhere different.
Yeah. Same thing like quartering two, you don't want to put behind the shoulder. You want to put it between the neck and that shoulder and squeeze that bullet through there. And a lot of times, like I love a quartering two shot, especially if it's not a far shot, because, I mean, you can take out the heart so easy. I mean, literally put it 3 inches, 2.5, 3 inches above the brisket and pull the trigger. And most time if I shoot a buck like that, he is dropped.
Hits the ground.
That's probably something that in the off season, I want to look at a little bit closer on the best spot to put it in different situations.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's probably I've seen like there was a company years ago. I say years ago, like probably 7-8 years ago, that was making these flat 2D like real life images of like deer in like different positions, and kind of showed you they're like plastic little target coverings that you could use for deer or bow hunting. Hang them up if you're gun hunting. You just hang them up with a good backdrop. Bow hunting, put it in front of your bow target or up on your bow target, and it showed like an actual buck in the different positions and how you should hit them and like where you should put it at. And something like that would be so helpful, especially for like looking at a quartering two shot, quartering away shot, like slightly quartering away versus aggressive quartering away, and what you would need to do in order to make that shot. But I'll tell you another thing that's an important factor, and you did a good job with this. If the deer whether you're gun hunting or bow hunting, bow hunting might be a little bit different. It depends, of course, how far the deer went. But like if you're gun hunting, if the deer's still standing, you keep shooting. Okay.
Yeah.
So many times I've heard of guys that take a shot with a rifle, the deer runs out, and they think it's going down. It's kind of acting weird, and all of a sudden it takes off running, and they don't find that deer. Okay. Yeah. Maybe they didn't put a dog on it. They just never found that deer. And that is like one of the biggest things that I try to do. I know Andrew does it as well. It's like if the deer's still standing, keep shooting until he's down, just to anchor him, secure him. Like no matter how good you think the first shot was, just shoot at him again, put another bullet in him, and it will tremendously help with the recovery and also potentially shorten the recovery. Especially like, I've seen people, gut shoot a deer. The deer runs out 60, 70 yards, and maybe you didn't think it was a gut shot. Maybe you think it's a lung shot. It's just one of those maybe kind of low hits that you didn't realize how low you hit them. Deer runs out, tail's tucked, the body language, tail's tucked, back's hunched up. And you're like, oh, he's about to go down. And then he just kind of walks off, and you just maybe don't find the deer, you bump him or whatever. If anything like that happens, you rack another shell and just, shoot him again.
Yeah. And, I probably could, I did a good job of that, but I could see where, I could have at least put a live shell in there that first time.
So that's just practice with your gun.
Yeah,
And like,
and I've got that gun. I wanted to kill a deer with that gun because my son's grandfather killed one with them, and I want to give that. It's my son's gun that was passed down to him, and I maybe he can kill a deer with it one day. But this year I'm planning on getting another rifle.
oh,
Because
okay.
We going gun
Now, you
shopping?
get me a little excited now. If we're going gun shopping, dude, we have
Don't
to do
take him, man. He's
Wait.
gonna get you to spend some.
No,
money.
no, we'll do a spreadsheet. We'll break down
do a
price point.
spreadsheet.
Listen, we'll break out.
Jacob's never done a spreadsheet for anything in his life.
Unless we're talking about gun purchases, that's a little bit different. Then we do a little compare and contrasting between different models. Listen, I got you, dude.
Okay, good.
I was born to work in a gun
I want
shop.
something,
Oh,
a little. I want something that's got a better,
Trigger, let me tell you.
but
Oh.
also light. I don't want something heavy.
I already know what you need. I got you, dude. Don't you worry. We're going to Mark's Outdoors. We're gonna get it taken care of. Okay.
Good deal.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. I get excited about that. Ooh.
Dude.
It's like Thomas told me back in like October, man, I want to go buy me a new rifle. I'm like, let's go. I already got 3 models for you, dude. Tell me the price point. Let's go. Listen, I'll go show you all of them. Oh, love it.
Yeah.
I love that.
Definitely. I was going to get a bow. I wanted a bow too, but I think I want a rifle more. So I'll do that first.
Yeah, I don't blame you, man. I don't blame you. Well, what are your thoughts on just like the enjoyment of gun hunting versus bow hunting? Which we're totally getting. This
Okay.
is a tangent. We're gonna talk about like going up to the deer and all that stuff. But I'm just before I forget, I'm curious about asking that.
Well, I really like bow season because nobody else at our hunting camp, nobody else was out there.
Yeah.
And you could get really close to some does and stuff like that. So, I mean, I enjoyed the heck out of that. I think I like them both equally, but I didn't see any big bucks or anything like that during bow season.
Whoa,
no,
whoa,
actually,
whoa,
Yeah, hold
at
on.
the tail end, you're right about
The
that.
last weekend of bow season.
The last weekend of bow season,
Yep.
that was, and you're right. I forgot about that.
Bachelor group just
Saw
comes.
the biggest buck on the property.
Yeah, and shot at it. So, yeah, I think I like it before everybody gets out there and puts the pressure on them.
Mm-hmm.
But it was interesting to watch how things evolved and changed as with pressure and the time of year and the leaf off.
Do you feel like it got
aspect.
harder as it went on?
Yeah, it got. I feel like it got harder, but it's mainly because I'm learning, but like right now, it's a lot harder because I feel like you got to be close to where they're bedding down.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. During the early season, I mean, if I could shoot a bow, I mean, I could easily kill a doe out there.
Got some more practice to do this
Yeah,
off
so
season.
this off season, practicing with the bow, get a rifle, and there's a bunch of things I'm going to work on the off season, but just to become to where maybe I can fill the freezer this year.
Oh yeah, definitely. So you get down out of the tree. What's it like going to that deer? Your very first deer after all the last 2 years of hunting hard. What's it like going and putting your hands on your deer?
Well, first of all, I sat up there a little while, and I was like, well, maybe I can kill a doe too, because you were.
Oh yeah.
I let you know, and you're like, well, I'm on my way. I'll be there in about an hour, so right at the dark, and so I was going to sit up there and see if something else came, but then I was just like sitting there looking at that deer.
You see that white belly in the woods. You're like, oh.
And
man.
Sam's like, was it 6-point or 8-point? And I couldn't remember. I couldn't remember at all. I was like, I knew it was one or the other. And then I was like, man, I remember it as being just a big, nice deer, but was it really? And so climbed down the tree, crawled through the stickers and went over there and looked at it, and I was like, oh yeah, this is a nice one.
Oh yeah.
We call that a taxidermy bill.
Yes. Yeah, it's already there.
And he was right on top of that scrape that we had found.
Yeah, he was walking just north of it.
Mm-hmm.
He was coming through. So I don't know. There were some ponds, small ponds over there. I don't know if he was bedded down in that area or if he was just traveling through. But at 3:30, in the middle of the day, I wasn't expecting to see anything till closer to dark, but
Yeah.
that was awesome. So I guess he was heading over. And by the way, I checked that camera that morning and I saw an 8-point on there, and it was him.
Yep.
From 3 days earlier, and he was there.
He's what, half mile away?
Yeah,
As the crow flies?
Yeah, and it was around 5 something. So he was probably heading to that spot where my camera was.
Yeah, yeah, big transitional area. Yeah, and that goes back to like you're kind of hunting the bedding right there, and so that is actually a spot where I would expect to see a deer. Like when I went and hunted that general area, I was expecting to kill a deer midday in there. Like I was expecting to kill a deer between like 11 and 2 o'clock. Because I'm like, they're going to ease their way back in here throughout the morning, and then they're just going to be kind of moving around in here. And so, yeah, you killed him, like, pretty early in the day then. And so, yeah, you got down, like, I mean, I don't know. Did you, like, freak out next to him? Like, what'd you do? Did you just, like, admire him for a minute?
I laid down and hugged on him.
You spooned with him?
No, I just was looking at him and took a picture of him and sent it to you guys. And, I don't know. I was just, I felt so much relief off.
Yeah.
Got my first deer, it was like my goal for this year. And it's like if, February 10th got here and didn't have that and rolling into another year. And it's like with the podcast, I was like, it's going to make these guys look bad if I don't kill anything.
If I can't put Mike on a deer. Yeah, I think that morning, too, I was like, we're getting in. It is the rut, but also, we're getting close to the end of the season. And I was like, hey, because you had said, like, you really wanted to kill a buck. I'm like, hey, if you see a doe, shoot her.
Oh, no, yeah.
I was like, don't pass a doe.
I was going to shoot anything that came out, but I wanted to be in a spot where I had a chance at a buck first.
Yeah.
And so I was asking you for that. So, and once I saw that 10-point, I had a little buck fever. It's like I wanted to be in a spot where I could get a buck on my first kill.
Oh, yeah. And that deer, so going back through trail camera data, we actually had that deer on camera a lot. We had him on camera. I think it might have been the first time he showed up. I think he showed up before this, but it's kind of hard to tell whether or not it's him. But the first, like, for sure hardhorn image of him that we had was October 7th. And he was crossing the creek going up into the same exact bedding area on October 7th at like 7:30 a.m., which is before our bow season opens. And you can tell it's him. He's busted up, so he snapped one brow tine almost completely off. He kind of broke half the other one off, and then I think one of his G3s, he snapped half of that off. So he was a little bit busted up. He's a little war torn. He's been fighting. And but it's for sure the same deer, and he went walking up in there. And the picture you took of the deer.
Yeah, I know.
We got to teach.
I know how to take a picture of a bass, make it look big, but I didn't do justice on that picture. I sent it to these guys. Like, oh, that's a good deer.
Oh, I was excited. I was like, yeah, man, good deer.
It's a little bit bigger, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, I called you and I was like, man, that's awesome. And then when you brought him over to the house and I caped him out because I was on the phone with somebody in the truck and I'm like, is that the deer Mike killed?
Yeah, because we drug it past your truck.
And I was like looking at it, I was like, okay. And then I went back to like clean it. I'm like, dude, that deer's a lot bigger, especially body, but antlers too. Like body wise, is a lot bigger than I thought he was.
Yeah, big old dude. His neck was so swelled up. I mean, like big old fat neck on him. And then the antlers too. I mean, he had like much bigger antlers than it looked like in the picture you sent. I thought he was like a much smaller deer than. And then when I showed up in person, and I was like looking at him, I was like, whoa! I was kind of like,
I
Jacob.
know. I remember that you sat down there next to the deer and you started looking at it and you're like, damn, Mike, awesome, man.
I was like, okay, we got a good one. Like, let's go. Taxidermy Bill. Now he's at Daniel Williams.
Cedar Ridge Chronicles. Nice. Yeah, dude. By the way, you guys see all of our deer there.
Oh yeah. So I went up there. When did I go up there? Monday.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't know what day it was, but I went this week from the office and took it up there and dropped it off. And I didn't realize, Andrew sent me up there. I didn't realize all y'all's bucks were up there, and that
Yeah, we got
you guys
4 up there.
Yeah, so he's like, I was like, Andrew Maxwell. He's like, oh yeah, And I was like, well, I'm his stepfather. And he's like, well, here's Andrew and Jacob's bucks here on this wall. And it was all 4 of y'all's from last year up there. Sent you guys a picture of them. And
They look good.
yeah.
They look real good.
Oh my gosh, my 10 points up there.
It looks
Send me
like-
the picture of that 10 point. I'm like, oh, he looks so good.
Yeah, he does look good.
I'm so excited to get that deer back, man. And Tiffany told me that I have to mount it on the fireplace.
That's gonna suck mounting it right
I don't
there.
care. Dude, there's guys whose wives won't let them put it in the house.
I'll help
and she's
you.
saying put it in front of God and everyone right here in the middle of the living room fireplace. You can see it from every part of the house.
Andrew's got a gigantic fireplace, guys. That's like it's like just stone rock
Stone.
going up
Well,
25
you just need
feet.
one of those concrete, blue concrete screws that are just really big and long and
Just send it
right through.
let her eat. Yeah, that's what we're doing. So it's gonna go there.
Well, you don't want to go into the inside the fireplace.
No, that'd
so
be-
I'll help you with it if you need.
Yeah, I probably need help.
Yeah, I don't know, Mike. I don't know if you've seen Andrew with power tools. It's pretty
Yeah.
dangerous.
Well, anyway, I'm trying to figure out. I'm thinking he's going to go over here.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
this is the
I've got lots of empty space over here to fill.
This is like Southern Outdoorsman headquarters west.
Yeah.
West. Yeah.
This is our western headquarters.
Off campus.
Our western campus.
This is where we're doing all of our live events, guys. So
Yeah. Once y'all put up this wall down here, I was like, y'all mind if we record some podcasts? That looks good, man. It looks really good. Now we just got to keep filling it up.
Yeah.
Filling it up. And hey,
We'll do
just wait until you get to go hunt an SOA, baby.
I know. I've been
dude,
I've been putting in the last couple of years, so I'm gonna.
How many points you got? Do you know?
Well, actually, this was my first year for deer to put in on SOA, so
Well, Anthony is all about it too. I told Anthony about it. He's like, dude, what do I got to do to put in for that thing? I'll call you when it opens.
Yeah.
All the listeners, don't worry about it. They're not that great.
Yeah, don't. If you're living out, don't.
So last year I missed the deer and I put in for duck and I got,
Yeah.
for duck and that was it.
Yeah.
But this year I put in and I got nothing. But I figure, with time, I'll get something. Andrew wants me to get it because he knows I'm going to invite him.
No, hey,
I'm over here just like, yes.
No, dude. If you want to drive Andrew home on it and just kind of make him a little upset, especially if you don't put you on a good hole, take Sam with you. Like Sam, I know you've been struggling, brother. Come on with us, bro.
Look,
Let's go tag out.
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
We got to get Sam.
Yeah,
on the
Sam-
deer.
Yeah,
Sam and Blakely got to come
Sam
on this
and
podcast.
Blakely, they got to come on here and they got to they're next. They got to get
Yeah, dude.
some.
Yeah,
good deer.
dude, they hunt hard, man.
I know.
But they just now got climbers, and I've been telling them like, y'all got to get off the food plot. Like, if you get a climber or just anything that'll let you get in a tree, it will open up the world to you on a club like this because you can get where the deer are. I mean, it really is as simple as that, and you experienced that because you didn't have one last year.
Well, that, and then also I've learned this year, I think getting even higher up a tree can make it's not, I mean, it's a, big difference. Getting a little bit higher to where, even when you have the buck running around, figure out what's trying to, what's going on. He has no clue you're up there.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. And yeah, they've been hunting hard. So I'm excited to get them on. And get them on. I was gonna invite them tonight. Like, if y'all are listening, I was gonna invite y'all tonight. But we're about to get like a giant winter ice storm. So I was like, I probably don't need to be driving home like in the middle of that. So
Right.
So I didn't get him to come.
I
wanted him to come here.
I brought my tire chains. I'm probably like one of 3 people in Alabama that's got tire chains in the truck right now. So
Well, y'all can just crash here if needed.
Yeah, my mom.
Your
really
mom
wants
is
us to.
upstairs.
Yeah, I know. Mom. We were.
hey,
like,
if she cooks for us, listen now.
She's cooking up there.
I want to know that, but I'm just, I'm saying we stayed for a couple of days now.
Listen, hey, she was never that insistent before we had a grandkid. Now she doesn't care about me anymore, dude. She's
Yeah. Andrew's over the wayside.
Yeah, I'm old news now. She's like, "Are you bringing Piper?" I'm like, "Hey, I got to run by your house and get something." She's like, "Oh, is Piper coming?" And I'm like, "No, her and Tiffany are at home." She's like, "Oh," I'm like, "Well, thanks, Mom." So, anyways,
real quick, Mike, I got a question.
Okay.
After this experience, killing your first deer, what has been some of the bigger takeaways what's a big takeaway you've taken away? God,
you can do it.
what have It's like me with adder eats.
Oh man, I ought to do an ad
I know what
read
you're
bully
trying to
for real.
ask.
No, but like, what are some of the takeaways that you've gotten from like this experience that maybe is going to kind of help you go forward and maybe simplify some things or make you feel more confident? Because one thing you mentioned, I don't know if you really caught on to this, you said right when that wind died, you just had a feeling. Okay,
Yeah.
that's woodsmanship. That's like experience out there. Like something's going to happen, and that takes a little bit of experience. So that's awesome that you're already connecting with that. But like, what are some other things you kind of took away from the hunt?
You know, like I said, getting a little bit higher in the tree and being super quiet, getting into some of these areas, especially when you know you're going to be close to where deer may be bedded down. You know, I got during, like I said, my tree stand was squeaking, and I kind of ignored that for a little bit, and you know, was like, you know, it sounds like a tree squeaking, you know, and that probably did affect some of my hunts, you know, and you know, I don't know. To me, just the whole year of learning what a deer season's like and how it changes and it evolves, and there's so many different things where that goes in. I think next year, knowing that information is going to help me, and scouting in the off season and leaving some cameras out all year long and really putting cameras out and learning and seeing what deer are coming through, you know, that's been a huge help. So there's so much stuff to learn that it's like I'm just soaking as much of it in as I can. And off season, get better with the bow, get better with shooting my bow, my rifle, and get a saddle, get up so I don't have to carry all that weight, you know, just all that stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Get ready for next year.
Yeah, that's some really good stuff right there. That's something again that, you know, me and Jacob, we started hunting when we were so young that like that's not even really something I've ever considered, is like actually learning what a full deer season is like the gamut of like running through that the first time. That's really interesting.
Yeah,
That's really interesting.
Yeah, it's, you know, there's so many things, and just next year I'll be in the off season be focusing on the things I need to work on to be better, and but you know, just going back and look at my camera data and seeing what's going on and trying to learn from that. There's so much stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll tell you another thing, and this is something that I'm glad we did our Georgia hunt this year because it was like a good test run for me. But getting super familiar with your equipment before season comes in, and like we're like, yeah, there's no hiccups, there's no like forgetting stuff, there's no like, you know, banging stuff in the tree when you're setting stuff up. Like you're just like you're going through the motions. Like it's so natural because you've already done it a little bit. And I've done that a little bit in the summertime, like practice, you know, even though I've been saddle hunting now for like, I guess this be almost my sixth season. Yeah, sixth season now. But I've been like running gun mobile hunting with like lock-ons and sticks for like 10 years. And it's like just going through the motion of like packing your stuff up quietly, understanding how everything needs to pack up, you know, in the right way so it doesn't make any noise when you're walking out or walking in, hanging your set so you feel comfortable, hanging your climber, climbing quietly. All that to me plays a huge factor, especially when it comes to like those early season opportunities. And Andrew's mentioned now a couple of times on the podcast recently that he feels more and more confident killing a buck early season during bow season, just because like they're so patternable. They're working these areas and there's such good leaf cover that like they can feel more confident working through some of these bottoms or, you know, these ridge sides that now are wide open, but in early season in October, it's not like that. And I feel like if you get very confident with your equipment before season comes in, it makes those first couple opportunities better because you're already dialed in, you feel confident, you're able to get it nice and quietly, and potentially have a better opportunity to get that deer to come through there, especially if you're getting real tight to where you think they're bedding at.
Yeah, that's right. I've got some does that I saw in early bow season in some spots that I'm like, you know, next year I'm going to be in there and I'm going to know what I'm doing when those does show up, you know?
Yeah, that I mentioned this on the podcast, I think maybe last week, where we were talking about whether or not we wanted to stay in this club. And, you know, it came on when I was talking about that, it was kind of on a dry streak again. Like it was kind of a time period where we were struggling to see deer. Like I wasn't seeing deer, Sam wasn't seeing any, you weren't seeing any, and it got really hard. And but if I think back in bow season, I'm like bow season was actually really good.
Yeah, it was.
We were on deer every single time we went out. You were on deer almost every single time. I was on deer. You know, I killed the doe. I passed some does. I saw other does. You saw the 10-point bow season and that bachelor group. And bow season out there is actually very, very good to us. So, like, that's got to factor into the decision of, like, are we going to stay in? And also the turkeys. Are we
And
gonna
the
stay in?
ducks.
And the ducks. Yeah, there's great duck hunting on the property as well. And there's even quail on the property.
Right.
So, we might have to go get acquainted with them
Yeah,
in a
and
couple weeks.
I'm looking forward to my first turkey season. Crawling around in the woods.
We got to get you a Meadow Creek mount, man, for your shotgun.
I know I've got a red dot that I bought, but it doesn't connect to my shotgun. I was gonna have to figure that out.
We
So
got you.
I might have to just buy another one and throw that one on a pistol.
No,
or something.
what's the? Do you know what model or like what
It's a
manufacturer?
Vortex.
Oh, we can get a mount for it.
Okay.
Meadow Creek
So
mounts.
the Meadow Creek mount, it allows you to not, you don't have to like drill and tap your gun and put like a rail on it. So there's
Oh,
like
it's just the mount.
So
For
it's
my
a
red
mount.
dot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it allows you to mount that red dot on the rib of your gun. And so you don't have to like screw anything in there. You don't have to take it to a gun shop, no nothing. And you can use the promo code Southern to get 10% off of those.
That's what
Yeah,
I'm gonna
link
do.
in the show notes. I've been using one since like last season. Really, 2 seasons really. I've had one, and it's awesome. Like using that red dot because, especially, like my opinion for like a new turkey hunter, and you're still like trying to like, you got to like stay down on that gun. It's not like a rifle scope or something where you like clearly see the animal in the
Yeah.
crosshairs. If you start raising, and I've had so many issues. I've missed so many turkeys just by raising my head up at like the last minute right before I shoot, and you're looking over the barrel instead of looking down the barrel and shooting over the top of turkeys. And like with that red dot, that doesn't happen because you have that one focal point. And the cool thing about having the red dot on there, like with that mount, or even if you're not using that mount, but just using the red dot, is even if you're not perfectly aligned, you can see that dot. So if you need to take a left-handed shot for any reason, as long as you can see that dot, that's the impact of that gun.
Yeah, that's what Andrew showed me one time when you first got a red dot. And I was like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, you don't have to be perfect on it. That tremendously helped me with turkey hunting. And Jacob's been wing shooting with it.
By the way, if you want to go save while we're just talking here, a little plugs. You want to go save on some Vortex optics, you can go to Midway USA, use the promo code, was it Southern
1023 1023.
Southern 1023,
Yeah.
10% off. Yeah.
Yeah, of Vortex Optics at MidwayUSA.com. While we're plugging stuff, you get you all kinds of discounts.
Yeah, man.
Use the promo code Southern at OnX while you're at it. Good grief.
Save you 20%, baby.
That's how I found that pinch point. It's on X.
OnX coming in close.
Yeah.
I told y'all I've been doing these ad reads, and I'm like, hey, turn that tracker on. It's useful. Like you start noticing patterns, whether
Right.
they're pinch points or dead areas where you're not going. It's so useful.
I was telling Greg from Meadow Creek when he was hunting with us up in when he came down to Alabama, we were hunting, and I'm like, dude, because he uses Onyx, and he was like trying to show me on the map where he was walking and like finding all these bucks. And I'm like, do you not use your tracker? And he's like, no. I'm like,
Oh,
why
no.
not? And he's
No,
like,
Greg, what are you doing?
he's like, I know where I'm going. And I'm like,
No.
it doesn't matter if you know where you're going. It's like, dude, you can see so well of like what you're missing, and then also like, is that the best point of travel going back to that spot? Or is there maybe a different way you need to go in? Always use your tracker. Almost every time I go in the woods, I put the tracker on. I might delete it when I'm done, especially like if I don't find anything worthwhile, and I just don't want hundreds of tracks on my app on like a piece of public. But there's always that one time you find something, and you're like, crap, I wish I had my tracker on.
I
Or you find a
never
or-
delete them.
Or if you find a really good access, maybe on the way out of a spot, maybe you go through a little hellhole on the way in, but on the way out, midday or whatever, you find a really good access way to get out. If you don't have your tracker on when you leave your tree, you ain't going to find your way back down there more than likely,
Yeah, man.
especially in the dark.
Dude, I never delete them ever. I don't care. I don't care if I go 30 yards off the road and do a loop. I save it because
You can hide it,
Yeah, you can hide it if you want, but I can always pull it back up because this has happened to me several times now in the past where I did delete one time and it ended up coming like really bite me in the butt because like 4 years later I was going back into that same area. Actually, it was last year. And I knew I'd walked it before, but that track, I didn't have the track anymore. And so I couldn't remember exactly what was in there. And it was an area that I had walked in the past, and I was like, I don't know if this is that good. And then, through the years, I learned more and I got more experience. And I thought back on that spot. I'm like, okay, actually, that's probably a really good area. I need to go in there and give it a different try. But now looking at it from a different perspective, and I didn't have my dang track. That I'd already put that work in, and now I don't know exactly where I was, so I got to go in there and kind of rediscover that stuff.
Right.
So yeah, the track is, man, epic feature. But anyways, I'm excited for turkey season too, man. We had a morning the other day where I was in the tree, and it started to get like that pre-dawn, and everything was kind of pinkish where the sun was coming up, and the birds started chirping, and an owl fired off, and like when the owl fired off, I was like waiting for a turkey to gobble. I was like, oh, it's getting close. Like we're getting that time of year. I told someone the other day I'm one like 72-degree day away from like full on switching to turkey brain, and so right now we're pretty far away from that.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about that right now.
You don't have to worry about that right now. It's going to be like 7 degrees tomorrow. But
Well, the day I killed the buck, that I checked that camera on that ridge, went back, pulled the card, put a new card in the camera, went back to my truck, and I'm sitting there looking on my phone, and I'm parked right on the side of the road, and I look up, there's a bunch of longbeards walking right in front of my truck. There's a ton of them out there.
that camera is where me and
Hey,
you turkey hunt.
Mike, you gotta take me as a guest this year.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, listen. I'll do the calling. You can shoot my gun. You shoot your gun. No, you just need to get your Meadow Creek mount. Get your gun set up.
I'm gonna get that.
Oh,
now.
are you gonna go to NWTF with us?
If you want me to, I will.
You need if you're gonna turkey hunt this year, you need to experience NWTF convention in Nashville, Tennessee.
Okay.
yeah.
When is that?
That's a good question. February 14th.
It's always like right there around
Yeah.
Valentine's Day.
Yeah, I
15th,
can go.
16th,
I can go
17th.
in February.
It's like you just come for like a Saturday. Saturday's crazy at the show. But
Yeah,
it's
go
like
stay at Opryland.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
We need to go visit Nick too.
Yeah, we do need to go.
sometime.
Yeah.
Take Weller up there. My puppy, he's got to go up there. So
Yeah, go get
might
on
be a
some
good
birds.
time.
yeah.
Yeah, Nick's covered in snow right now.
Do a little loop right there. But yeah, you need to go experience that. Like it's awesome. Other than the waterfowl callers, that's the most annoying thing with NWTF. Like you got these guys blowing goose calls. I'm like, why? Like this is terrible. It's the worst sounding vocalization in the world, man. Other than Sandhill Crane's pretty bad too. But God, dude, yeah. Other than that, it's awesome. It's a great time, and y'all can come hang out with us because we'll be there. So anyway, other than that, y'all got anything else?
Man, turkey season, where me and him hunted that public land area that you never hunted this year. You were sitting there. What you saw?
Public land area.
Oh yeah, I've got
You
a
had
video.
a drove of what, like 8 longbeards walk by you?
Whoa.
Yeah,
Where?
that big scrape.
Or we doubled last year.
That big scrape.
Doubled.
Where all of our cameras are at.
Y'all turkey hunted in there?
No,
I
we deer
sat,
hunted.
I sat up there in the tree all day long, didn't see a single deer, but I saw a whole bunch of longbeards go by and took video of them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he sent me the video.
We
I'm
back.
talking about swanging beards, boy.
Yeah.
We're back in there. Trust me. Listen, putting some miles
Hey,
on the
because
back.
that
I'll-
area sets up good for turkey hunting.
It does.
And
yeah.
I don't have to carry a climber. I don't
No.
have to carry a climber in there.
God, Andrew, stop coughing. The audio listeners,
Lord have mercy.
they're hating you on this episode.
I know.
It's
Jacob's fault.
You better apologize
You
to
got
him.
me sick.
I didn't kiss you. What are you talking about?
I said you got me sick.
I know.
What are
I
you talking
didn't,
about?
I ain't been around you.
Oh my gosh, you're so weird. All right, we're about to. These cameras about to die.
That one's down right now. 3, 2, 1.
Any concluding thoughts? I guess you got anything else, Jacob? Anything?
No, Weaver Meats second annual Hunters Meetup. It's February 24th. Make sure you come down. It's going to be a really great event. We're hosting the event. Big live event. Free to come and hang out. Buckmasters will be there scoring deer, so come on, bring your deer down and get scored. There'll be free food, drinks, the whole 9 yards, family friendly. It's gonna be a really good time. So super excited. So hopefully see y'all there at Weaver Meat Processing in Hartsville, Alabama, February 24th, which is a Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike, congrats on your first deer, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Got to go get another one now.
Oh, I know. I've got to start lining them up. I got to fill up my freezer.
Yeah, I got plenty of freezer space. So,
Yeah.
anyways, thanks everybody for watching. Thanks for listening. I'm stealing Jacob's line. Make sure y'all tune in for this Thursday's episode where we're going to do a Q&A, listener Q&A. We do them every single Thursday. If you want to write in a Q&A, you can go look at the show notes, and there's a link down there where you can do that. If you've killed a deer using something that you've used on the podcast, you can write in a listener success story as well. We share all those, so y'all write those in. We appreciate everybody watching, appreciate y'all listening, and remember, y'all stay Southern.